this video is me reading my final essay for English class, titled Power Motives, Effects, and Unidentified Reasons. Now, I tried to stay on topic as much as I could, but I didn't know exactly how. I tried to I tried to bring in a lot of different things, and I don't know if it sounded as good as I thought it would. So, intro paragraph. Gaining power has been humanity's goal since the very beginning, and literature has always offered many examples to support that claim. In fact, gaining power has been a goal for every species in the world. Although it may not be the same type of power as humans, they still have a form of power. For wolves being the alpha of the group, for bees, the queen bee, etc. One major difference is that humans tend to abuse that power for their own betterment. In contrast, others take a toll on that power. For example, in William Shakespeare's The Tragedy of Macbeth. But then there are those who use their power or authority for the greater good of everyone. For example, in Homer's The Odyssey. The search for why some people do or don't abuse their power will never end. The motives behind either side are always different, but we could always infer from patterns that researchers spot. I feel like I don't need that. Okay. We can also see the long-term effects power has on those people who wield it. Basically, I was comparing us humans to different species of animals and all that to kind of show what I was trying to talk about. It's power not being power superpowers, but leadership and authority, as I had mentioned here, along those lines. Paragraph 2, first body paragraph. People abusing power has been done for as long as history can record, and it will continue for as long as we humans exist. The only difference is how that person or people will abuse that power, and for what exact reason will they abuse it. A major reason someone may abuse power is because they didn't obtain that power fairly. The person with the unfairly gained power tends to let their ego get the best of them once they are in power. A very clear example of this ego getting the best of someone is seen in William Shakespeare's The Tragedy of Macbeth. In Act 5, Scene 7, Macbeth has just slain young Siward and says, "Thou wast born of woman, but swords I smile at, weapons laughed to scorn, brandished by man, that's of a woman born." He says this because earlier in the play, he saw apparitions of children saying, "No one of woman born can bring him down," meaning he can stay in power, which he gained by killing the king and having the king's sons run away from their home country. When he hears the apparition, he begins to go on a killing spree. The more people he slays, the more his ego boosts. We can see the ego boosting in the specific scene because he's smiling at swords as if they were his friend, and if killing was something good. Later on in the play, Macduff tells Macbeth, "Despair thy charm, and let the angel whom thou still hast served tell thee, Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped." At this part of the play, Macduff has revealed to Macbeth that he is not technically of woman born because he was born through cesarean section. This worries Macbeth as they are fighting, which he doesn't win. Neither does he survive the fight. This shows the negative effect that power and ego have on a person. Obviously, things like this seem obvious after what he did at the beginning of the play, but that is not the only outcome of power. So basically, I was just talking about how Macbeth let his ego get the best of him while he was, king, after killing King Duncan, way earlier in the play, Act 2 or 3. What else? I mean, that's pretty much about it that I was trying to talk about. And I was also saying, he becomes king unfairly, as I had mentioned earlier. And while he has this unfairly gained power or authority, he thinks that he can just kill anyone he wants to maintain that power. because he knows he could be overthrown. Second body paragraph. Sometimes when someone has power or is already powerful for a prolonged period, they don't even use it for their own good. The power of a person can also be used for the betterment of others, even after a journey of pure hardship. Gaining power or authority over a prolonged period can have better effects on a person than sudden overnight power. This example of power sustained over a prolonged period is most clearly in Homer's The Odyssey. Although the story starts with Odysseus, the main character, already having power, he does not have the most power. He slowly but surely gains more power and trust from others and is more loved by those around him. In Book 9 of the Odyssey, Odysseus finally finds himself trapped in the cave of the Cyclops, with his men fearing for their lives as they try to escape. Odysseus' men get eaten one by one, each day for several days, until he has had enough and comes up with a genius plan to save the rest of his crew from the Cyclops. Odysseus says, "As for myself, I kept on puzzling to think how I could best save my own life and those of my companions," signaling that he doesn't just worry about his own life, but those of his crewmen as well. His gratitude and concern for his crewmen show that he is not selfish. He presents himself as a good leader who came up with a plan to save his crewmen shortly after. He says there was to be a man under the middle sheep, and the two on either side were to cover him, so that there were 3 sheep to each man. As for myself, there was a ram finer than any of the others, so I caught hold of him by the back, myself in the thick wool under his belly, and flung on patiently to his fleece, face upward, keeping a firm hold on it all the time. In the plan he makes, where each of his men hides under the huge goats and rams, he includes each and every one of them. By the end of the book, all his crewmen are no more, but it's all due to their own actions. Odysseus tried the hardest to keep them alive, however, the ignorance of their surroundings caused them to be gone forever. Another reason Odysseus can be seen as a good person, who so happens to have power, and does not use the power for his own benefit, is when he shows up back home as an old beggar to hide who he truly is, without walking in and showing everyone instantly to regain all his power and love from everyone around him. He holds himself back and keeps acting as if he were just a beggar. So basically in this one, I'm just breaking down some of the parts where Odysseus shows he is most kind and selfless. I included the part of his crewmen where he's helping save them. I think that was really crucial because that was one of the moments where he truly does care for all his crewmen, where he actually shows it. Body paragraph 3. Although we see power being used differently between these two, their motives differ. Some people might use their power or authority for themselves and not in a crude way, but it ends up having a positive effect on others. A clear example of this is the philosopher Albert Schweitzer. According to Britannica, Schweitzer announced his intention to become a mission doctor in order to devote himself to philanthropic work. With the help of the natives, built his hospital, which he equipped and maintained from his income, later supplemented by gifts from individuals and foundations in many countries. Although Schweitzer was not very well known, he was known enough to have others' support to do what he wanted to support those around him. Later in the article, they state, despite the occasional criticisms of Schweitzer's medical practice as being autocratic and primitive, his influence continues to have a strong moral appeal, frequently serving as a source of encouragement for other medical missionaries. We see that when someone uses their power, or in this case influence, for the good, everyone starts to remember them in an honorable way. Although Albert used his influence for good, the same cannot be said for the previously mentioned hero's lover. So basically, I was talking about a philosopher who was pretty well known. Well, he was well known, but not too well known back in the early 1900s. As stated here, he was a mission doctor, and he influenced later mission doctors to do what they wanted to do in regards to that. And he was pretty influential to a lot of people, so some people could count influence as power. Yeah. Body paragraph 4. Yeah. At the beginning of the play, Macbeth's wife, Lady Macbeth, is very influential, at least to Macbeth. Lady Macbeth was the one who influenced Macbeth to kill King Duncan, so they could become king and queen. Macbeth, being the gullible person that he is, fell for this manipulation that was done by his one and only love. Lady Macbeth says to Macbeth, "Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage?" Here Lady Macbeth is using manipulation to convince Macbeth that if he doesn't kill King Duncan, then he's a coward. She's starting to push his buttons to get him to do what she wants rather than what he thinks is best. With her finally prying at his old dignity, Macbeth turns extremely violent towards a lot of people. We see this most evidently when Macbeth sends people to kill Banquo and his son Fleance, after suspecting Banquo is suspicious of him. Macbeth learns that Fleance has escaped and goes mad. He says to one of the murderers he sent, "Then comes my fit again. I had else been perfect, whole as a marble, founded as a rock, as broad in general as a casing air, but now I am cabined, cribbed, confined, bound into saucy doubts and fears." After hearing the news of Fleance's escape, he starts to overthink everything and isn't sure what to do next. This is a clear example of the negative effect that Lady Macbeth's influence has on Macbeth. Lady Macbeth doesn't use her influence to get Lady Macbeth doesn't use her influence to get Macbeth. Okay, that makes no sense. I'm gonna change that. But what I mean is, Lady Macbeth not only gets Macbeth to kill King Duncan, instead, she uses it. Okay, no. Lady Macbeth doesn't only use her influence to kill King Duncan. She instead uses it to kill King Duncan and Macbeth's true internal self in order for him to show his true love for her, show his true dignity. I need to fix up that last line. I'll do that in a bit. But basically here, I'm showing how one person's influence can affect another person drastically. In the beginning of the play, I think as I had mentioned earlier, Macbeth was one of the most loved. He was very honored. But by the end of the play, no one is on his side. Everyone wants him gone. He's killing anyone he thinks will be a threat to him and his throne. And right here we can see what the cause for that was. Lady Macbeth's influence or power caused Macbeth to commit the murder of King Duncan, which then made him commit many more murders. Conclusion paragraph. In conclusion, human beings are always driven by power to make decisions that determine their life. The internal workings of power within someone will differ from person to person. Furthermore, it will have no true motive. Some may use it for the greater good, like Odysseus and Albert Schweitzer. Others may also use it for their own benefits, like Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. The search for the true motive is never ending and will continue for as long as we know it. That is all about my essay. Thank you.